Welcome to the Lehocky Eagles postgame show, and a Merry Christmas to everybody who's watching and listening to us out there tonight. It could have been a little happier Christmas for all Eagle fans, but the Eagles do survive, and they get a win over what I thought was a god-awful New York Giants team in the first half. Suddenly they made it a game. But here's the thing, and let's not con ourselves. There's absolutely something missing in this Eagle team right now, and they're going to get a win. They'll probably win out, and they'll probably get a number 2 seed, but we're not left watching the same team that we were used to watching. And I know that we called it wrong during the season, that we did take a lot of these wins for granted, that there were a lot of warts that we didn't recognize. But right now it's clear that there's some pizzazz and fizz missing from this team. So tonight was more of a matter of survival than anything else. And the one good thing they did is they turned the game around finally in the fourth quarter with a couple of big plays, and that was really the touchdown, the go-ahead touchdown. They got their 27th point on that drive. It was a big play on a third down to A.J. Brown, and then a big carry by Kenneth Gainwell, which got them that touchdown. But until then, they were kind of sleepwalking through the second half, and it was one of those games where we're going, could they possibly lose to this lousy team? But they win, and they keep the dream alive. What is the dream at this point? I have no idea what the dream is, but I'm Mike Misnelli, and on your screen right now, we have Seth Joyner and Mark Farzetta. Guys, what is the dream?
The dream. Well, I guess the only thing you can really hang your hat on at this point in time is the fact that, they're in the playoffs. They're probably in, a good position to potentially get the 2 seed. And you just hope like heck that, they can get lucky the way they got lucky today in the playoffs and all of a sudden find some magic, and do something magical. There's just, we talked about it in the pregame, Mike, they've been searching all year long. They've been searching for the formula. They've been searching for the continuity on both sides of the ball. And it's just apparent that, whatever the mojo was that they had last year, they can't recover it. They can't find it. Teams have figured out ways how to stop them. And this has got to be the most frustrating Eagles team that I think I've ever witnessed play, because, you can see the talent and the ability sometimes, and you're like, oh my God, if they play like this, they're unbeatable. And then they do some boneheaded things to make you go, what were they thinking about there? Why would you make that play? How could you be in the league this long and make those types of mistakes? So it's just, I just think that we're in a spot now with this Philadelphia Eagles football team where it's just going to be touch and go every single week. Nothing's going to be easy. They're not going to get any easy wins. And it's just going to be an interesting situation week in and week out to watch them play, because they're Heckle and Jekyll, from series to series, from quarter to quarter. It really is.
The dream, Mike, is that they win a Super Bowl. But that's the dream, unlike last year where it was at least
a realistic dream is how I should have phrased that.
No, but that dream is they win a Super Bowl. But like last year, it was almost a likelihood that they would win a Super Bowl. This year, it's absolutely a pipe dream. I mean, look, for anyone that walks away from this game at this point in the season saying, well, a win is a win, you just haven't paid attention to the rest of the year. You just started. Maybe this Christmas you picked up on football a little bit and became at least a casual. But this was terrible. I don't believe in moral victories, but I sure as hell believe in moral losses. And this was absolutely a moral loss tonight. Look, even if you would have won by 20, 30, whatever the case would have been, even if you would have won by that amount, people still say, you know what, it still sucks. It's still the Giants. The fact that they were only able to win by essentially a one-possession game, or made it a one-possession game, is atrocious. The one request I had going into this game, let alone the other 2 games they have left on their schedule, is show me you can control a game from start to finish. Show me that you can dominate an opponent. Show me, pad the stats a little bit at the end of the year for your point differential. Show me that you were going to be the team shooting yourself in the foot. And yet, here they were shooting themselves in the foot. Where would they be if they didn't get short yardage on their first possession of the game? Thank you, Britton Covey. What would happen if they, actually helped themselves in the start of that second half by not giving the football away? Don't be the problem. Just be part of the solution, be part of the answer, be part of correcting the mistakes that they have made throughout the season. And tonight, they didn't do that. They held on enough to win. That's the obvious thing, but it's still terrible.
Just bracketed a part of this game that happened on kind of subsequent plays. At the end of the first half, Jalen Hurts had such little awareness of the situation that he doesn't go out of bounds, and they shouldn't by rights have gotten that field goal attempt. The only reason they got it was a delay of game penalty on the Giants because he picked the ball. And then the opening kickoff of the third quarter where Zacchaeus runs into Boston Scott and fumble, and the Giants score. And I'm going, good teams don't do that. Good teams don't do that. It's like we have lost the aura of this team being one of the premier teams in the league. And they were within a desperation completed pass on that last play of having this game tied against that team. Now, that Giants team is terrible. They were so bad, they had to pull the quarterback after one half a play because he was just so afraid out there. And Tyrod Taylor gives them, I guess, a better chance to win. But my God, you're up 20-3 going into the third quarter. You should put that team away. The old Eagle team would have put them away. Maybe a team we saw earlier in the season would have put that team away. Instead, they drag it all the way out. And they need to make big plays like the pass to AJ and the run by Gainwell to stay ahead, to stay afloat. It's just not the same. You watch this team and everybody's commenting the same way. They're going, something's lost here with this team. So that's why I asked you about the dream, because the dream realistically is if they get past the second round, I would be surprised.
To Farzi's point, be prepared because that's what you're going to get all week. Oh, but they won. Doesn't matter, but they won. That's not the point. We've been saying that all year long. And when they lost 3 games in a row, and then they lost to the New York Jets, and you try to make light of these inefficiencies that puts them in situations where they're barely holding on and winning football games, everybody wants you to just say, oh, they won though. That's all that matters is they won. No, it's not. You're not beating. You're not beating Detroit playing like this. You're not beating Dallas playing like this. You're certainly not beating San Francisco playing like this. So when you talk about the dream, if you face one of those 3 teams playing the way you played today, that dream, whatever it is, Farzi will turn into a damn nightmare in no time because they cannot win against better football teams playing the way that they play, and they seem not to have learned anything over a 15 or 14 game schedule. They haven't learned anything. Sirianni is still making boneheaded, decisions. Jalen is making boneheaded decisions. How do you give up a 70-yard touchdown, when you got the game won? What coverage are you in where you as a safety are standing flat-footed and don't see this guy running by you and you're just looking at the damn quarterback?
That was for Reed Blankenship.
And teams
did not make that play.
Teams that aspire to win Super Bowls, they don't make mistakes like this because they never get there making mistakes like this.
You know what? Just real quick, throughout a lot of this season, we have talked about that storyline of finding ways to win. And I feel like even really good teams can get away with that for a small portion of the schedule. But when you look back on the schedule, especially leading up to that gauntlet of games, you can't look back on them, well, they just found ways to win. You can't have an entire season of just barely scraping by. At some point, you have to show that you can dominate. You can dominate over long periods of time. You're not going to shoot yourself in the foot throughout games, and you're actually going to have games that you control from start to finish. So when you get away with that narrative of finding a way to win, that doesn't spell success in the postseason, unfortunately.
And here's what it did for me.
But I tell you this, there is a point in the season where learning how to win difficult games is beneficial. Okay, so if you go through the first 4 games are a wash because you're trying to find your rhythm. If you go through the first 8 games of the season and you're finding ways to win, that's acceptable. But once you get to this point of the year, if you haven't figured out, how to just win games instead of figuring out ways to win games, there's only a handful of ways that you can win a game. There's some ways that you can lose a game. And we've seen that at the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, see, this was a game where if you're going to get well, this would be the game you get well in because they had lost 3 straight. The Seattle game was an abomination. So, but you can obviously tell they weren't as good as the 49ers or Cowboys. This is the game that you get well. You come home and you're supposed to rectify all the things that went wrong in those 3 weeks. You're a 14-point favorite at home against this team. And when you went up 20-3, that should have turned into 34-3 or 34-10 at the very worst. This was an acid test for them to get well, and they didn't get well. So this is just limping to the finish, hoping you get a couple wins out of here, and then just crossing your fingers for what they can do in the playoffs. They're not a well team.
No. And I was saying similar to what Seth was just saying, Mike, and to your point, I look at this game going into it. I wanted to look at these last 3 games on the schedule, almost like you used to look at the last, the third preseason game back in the day, where it just showed that look, we can work on us here. We can do all the things that we think are going to make a better football team tomorrow and so on and going past that. But they just show that they're almost on the same level. I mean, think about this. You're looking at a 33-25 game here against the New York Giants, where they had to put in Tyrod Taylor only because the guy they had playing in the first half, Tommy DeVito, was just that terrible. This wasn't supposed to be the way this game played out. But I guess if you're just focusing on what the Eagles have done terribly over the last couple of weeks here, you would expect this kind of game for them to barely squeak by the New York Giants, even if they had a 17-3 lead. And I knew it at halftime. I had this fish-a-wish. I had this dream, if you will, that the Eagles would actually control the game. Maybe you get Marcus Mariota in there in the fourth quarter to close it out, and everyone just feels good going into the next game against the Cardinals. But they just allowed them to hang around and continued to make those same mistakes that you can't make if you're actually looking at yourself in the mirror and expecting to see the reflection of an elite team. And that's not at all what we know now. That's what we know now the Eagles not to be.
Yeah, by the way, I'm going to make a prediction here that Tommy DeVito has lost all his pizza parlor appearances for the rest of the year. I think that they have shrunk up now. He hit a couple when the iron was hot, but it's now over for my man with the Tommy Cutlets situation. But you're right. Like going into halftime and you get the kickoff, the good team goes, okay, enough, and they give him 7 on that, and then it becomes a game where you're just trying to scramble and survive, and you do enough to score a touchdown to take the lead, but then you're giving up a 70-yard touchdown. You got to come to grips with the reality of this. This team is really just trying to survive to the finish, and I couldn't tell you. Like, I could sit here and say they're not good enough to win in the playoffs, and that's a certainty. But when do they lose? And I'm thinking they could lose any game they play going into the playoffs right now.
Well, Mike, I'm looking at the comments over here in the comment section. I got, I hate this show, so negative. It just goes on. It just goes on and on, And
my God, do these people have eyeballs that are watching this game?
Yeah, but you know what it is? It's, they can't separate, being a fanboy from, true analysts as to, what you're seeing in the game. All they care about, those are the people that say, there's another one, 11-4. Yeah, you are. But, you're not beating the better teams in the National Football League. You're just not the way that they're playing. And
that's the only question really you have to ask. Are they good? Because we don't care about the rest of it. 11-4 does nothing for me. Are they capable of winning in the playoffs? Maybe they are, but certainly not against a really good team that they're going to play. And I don't, the 49ers are out of the question for me. There's no way they can beat them. But I now question whether they can beat a team like the Lions or, wherever. They're going to end up with the 2 seed, most likely. So they're going to be able to get the Lions in the second round.
The problem is their pass rush has disappeared. They're scared to death to blitz because of the coverage on the back end. The inefficiencies at linebacker continue to show up. Saquon Barkley is a good running back, but that offensive line is putrid. And they got the running game going in the second half to make it a game because you got Darius Leonard, who played really well in the first half. In the second half, he was just guessing, running through gaps, and Saquon was just picking up the gap that he really was supposed to be in. Then offensively, you just don't – there's no continuity to what they do. How many times are you going to watch Devontae Smith in the second half go in motion across and allow a blitzing team that you know that's going to blitz, okay? You're going to motion him across and allow them to time the blitz up off the motion. Almost every freaking play they ran in the second half, they ran Devontae Smith in motion, and as soon as he got to the edge of the box, they snapped the ball. So now you're giving a key to the defense. It's just the little small things that you don't even pay attention to. Why are you bringing them in motion if you're going to run the ball? Who cares whether they're in man or zone if you're going to run it? Stop doing that. Stop giving the defense, a snapshot or giving them a tip as to when you're going to snap the ball. It's just the little small things that I'm looking at. This like, why do we run bubble screen? We cannot run them with any efficiency. The bubble screen is the answer to the blitz for this football team. And instead of them just incorporating some sight adjustments, A.J. Brown can win on the inside on any player, any day, any time, okay? So instead of you just running the route and praying that your protection is going to pick up the blitz, why not sight adjust somebody? I watched Dallas Goedert run a freaking go route, a seam route against blitz. The guy that was lined up over him came on a blitz, and he ran 15 yards up the field. I'm like, run 5 yards and sit your ass down. It's like,
yeah. See, people want to believe. That's fine. With the comments, people want to believe that they have a chance to do something. Now, the trained eye, and we've seen a lot of football. And Seth, obviously, you played a lot of great football in your career, and we're a pro ball player. They're not connected. You can tell when a team is connected. An example of them not being connected is the fumble with Boston Scott with Zacchaeus being in the neighborhood. An example of them not being connected is giving up the long pick six. An example of them not being connected is giving up a 70-yard pass play for a touchdown. Good teams are connected to avoid stuff like that because those kind of things keep an inferior team in the game. And at this stage of the season, that inferior team should have been buried with you as a 14-point favorite in a home game.
Mm-hmm. A well-coached team, a well-disciplined team, they win that football game. A slightly more talented team, they win that football game with the opportunities that the Eagles gave the Giants today. But here's my problem with the philosophy here, Mike. And if you're happy they won today, congratulations. I'm glad they didn't ruin your Christmas, whatever it might have been. But in all seriousness, we don't look at these games on an individual basis. Like there's no parade that they beat the Giants today. There's no parade that they had the best record in football. There's no parade that they won a lot of games during the regular season. When you, as an Eagles team, when they set the bar at a Super Bowl appearance, that's how we grade them for the entire season. And yeah, like Seth was saying, you get away with it 8 weeks. You can talk about finding ways to win, and that's great, and that can help you later on. But then when you run through the gauntlet and you have trouble, like I just don't understand how people can still look at this and see the way they played the 49ers, see the way they played the Cowboys this time around, see how they played against Seattle and still say, oh, they got this. Or see how they played even in a winning effort tonight against the Giants and go, nah, this is the team right here. This is the team that can win a Super Bowl. And I don't know if there's ever been a better example of grading the team against the bar that they've set in the previous season, the level we know they can get to, the level of talent we know that they have, and then grading it versus what they have been this year. And I think the best case or the best example of that is the fact that if anyone is saying, oh, well, you're 10-2, everything looks good. The Eagles had a 2-game losing streak after starting 10-1. And then they fired their defensive play caller, essentially. They demoted him. So it's not just us looking at it going like, this doesn't look like a Super Bowl contending team. It also happens to be the front office of your football team. And what you saw tonight was unfortunately another extension of not being good enough to compete to win a Super Bowl at this point.
Well, I mean, listen, they got to play guys like Van Sumeren who, you get on the field all day. And Calcaterra gets his first catch of the year in game number 14
on a bad snap where
whatever it is. They have to play. They're throwing guys in at this point.
2 catches. Yeah. Hey, listen, Farley, to your point, hope springs eternal when it comes to any football franchise, in Philadelphia. We've been so scarred and so hammered, the last couple of years that, if we're in a position where we can be in the playoffs, hope springs eternal. So I get that. But my thing is, let's be realistic about what we're seeing. And let's not, because you know what? The fall's going to be that much harder, if you're unrealistic. See, I can be realistic enough. And don't get me wrong. I want the Eagles to do well. I hope that they do well. I want them to win as many games as they can, get back to the Super Bowl, parade, the whole deal. I want to be a part of that. I want to see that for the city of Philadelphia. But I'm also, a realist when it comes to analyzing this game and understanding what it takes to get to where you want to be. I played in 2 Super Bowls in my career. I've been on really good teams and I've been on really bad teams. And I know the reasons why teams succeed and why teams fail. Confidence is, we talked about the confidence of the football team, in the pregame, that this was an opportunity for them, for their confidence level, if it's down here, to get here. And then next week, move up a little more. And then in week 18, get it up here so that you go into the playoffs with your confidence. You can't tell me that these players, when they go and they sit and they look at the film, that there's an iota of confidence in them and how they're playing right now. They're scrambling just as well as the coaches are scrambling, trying to figure out, what do we have to do to get this thing right? What do we have to do to fix it? What do we have to do to become more efficient on the offensive side of the ball? Because I think if they're efficient on the offensive side of the ball, that's somewhat of a translation over to the defensive side of the ball, and it helps them. But when they're not efficient on the offensive side of the ball, when the offense is making boneheaded plays, now all of a sudden, all it takes is 1 or 2 plays, and whatever little bit of lack of confidence that you had on the defensive side of the ball, and I believe the defense's confidence is a lot lower than the offense's, whatever little bit you had, it gets expounded upon. And the next thing you know, here you go. Now the teams start running the ball at you. Some of the things today, they were in the 4th and 1 where they handed the ball to Saquon and he just waltzed in the end zone. Pray and tell me why you're not in a 5-man front. What in the hell are you doing in a 4-man front on 4th and 1 when they've just ran the ball at you 3 times in a row? But you're in a 4-man front that you couldn't stop. Good Lord, you couldn't stop a Pee-wee team from getting 10 yards, or a yard in that situation. Why are you not in a 5-man front? Why are you not in, go man-to-man across the board and go a 6-man line, go goal line? They're going to run the football, but yet they line up in a 4-man line, and Saquon just walks in because Darius Leonard decides he's going to run in the wrong gap, and here goes Saquon. He just waltzes into the end zone. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this and I'm like, what goes on in the mind of the defense coordinator when you make a call like that? They haven't changed their personnel. They're obviously in a personnel package that says we're going to run it because they ran it at you 2-3 times in a row, but you don't make an adjustment and you really believe that you're going to stop them on 4th and 1 in a 4-man front? I don't get it, man.
Yeah, we'll talk about the defensive coordinator performance in a little bit. Let's take a break right now, and because I got to tell you about my buddy Gary Kane, all of our buddies actually. Gary Kane, of course, if you're looking to hire someone in the IT or engineering or manufacturing technology fields, then you got to contact our buddy Gary Kane and his team at Kane Partners Staffing Solution. And here's how you can.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
All right, so let me continue this playoff chat because I talked to a lot of people this week that actually thought they had a chance to lose one of these last 3 games. One of the Giants, maybe the Cardinals. I have been steadfastly on the record saying there's no way they're going to lose any of these 3 games. Now, today was an almost. But my point with this, the rest of the season, is not whether they win these last 3 games. It's what it means to win those last 3 games. In other words, if they were able to rekindle some kind of zip in these last 3 games, then as we look into the playoffs, I would be much more optimistic for what they could possibly do in the playoffs. But, test 1 was today. They didn't show me anything that would indicate to me that they're going to have any significant playoff success, which is beat the Lions or the 49ers. There's 2 more games for them to show it. Could they get it back? I guess they could. We're just saying right now, when you look at this team, there is something that is disconnected. And I don't know if they can get it back. Maybe they can. But you can't just be blind to the fact that they're disconnected. You saw this game with your own 2 eyeballs. This game became a game that shouldn't have become a game because of the inferiority of that opponent. And it became a game. And it was 1 pass away, 1 fluke pass touchdown away from maybe being tied and going into overtime. So, again, if they had led in halftime 20-3 and they came out in the third quarter and buried that team, then I'm having a different look at this game. Okay, well, now they got the eye of the tiger back. I didn't see no damn eye tonight. Did you see an eye?
I seen somebody got poked in the eye. I mean, listen, you almost have to. I almost have to like laugh to keep from like really being pissed off about it, because I'm like, it's like you're watching football and you're like just scratching your head, because this is supposed to be, the top of the top. These are elite level athletes playing, the best of the best at the best level, and it's like, how in the world do you operate in this manner? It's almost like, did you practice this week? What was the game plan? What did practice actually look like? Did you guys just walk through all week? And this is the problem I have with walkthrough, is because, especially when you're running these bubble screens, this is why a fast-paced practice, is so important, because those bubble screens are a matter of timing, getting the guys out in front, making sure that you're getting guys blocked up, making sure guys are blocking aggressively, so that when that guy gets the ball, he doesn't have to try to figure out where his hole is or where his gap is. All he got to do is catch the ball and go, So I just wonder, practice-wise, what are you getting done? Because the thought process is, we're going to make sure we keep our guys fresh, by, taking them through these walkthroughs, these 1-hour walkthroughs. Well, you don't get anything accomplished in a walkthrough. For the older guys who know what the hell they're doing, that's easy. But you got so many young guys on this team. They need the pace. They need the pace of practice. They need repetitions, at seeing something. They need to visually see it and then physically do it, so that when they see it in a game, they know what their reactions should be. I don't know. When I watch this football team, they look to me, like I would love to be a fly on the wall, guys, and be able to watch a practice. Okay. Because the old adage is, you practice, you play the way you practice. And if this is what it's looking like in practice every single week, then we shouldn't be surprised that this is the product that we're seeing on the field every single week.
And what did Jalen Hurts say after the game last week against the Seahawks? You play how you practice. And that's where he started talking about his commitment and everybody else's commitment. And then this week he tried to walk it back a little bit, but it all starts with me and all that stuff. But this is how they play. The proof is in the pudding as far as I'm concerned. The Eagles, with their game plan, with their strategy, with their analytics meetings and all that stuff, they're getting exactly what they want. They're just not getting the execution. Their plan, Seth, their plan is great. They don't have to divert. They don't have to change anything. They know how to win. This is how they do it. It's a lack of execution. Well, maybe you could help the likelihood of the execution actually being done right by mixing things up a little bit and maybe doing something you do really well, which is run the football. And I don't find it a strange coincidence that the minute they started running the football and committing to that a little bit more in the second half of the game is the minute they started to really take control offensively and bleed the clock and take that control. And DeAndre Swift having 5 carries in the first half and then 15 in the second, and that's where he really started controlling things. That, to me, that's where you need to correct your balance as far as your run to pass ratio, as far as your overall scheme, as far as your overall game plan. And if you do that better, then I think that execution and what they're supposed to carry out on every single play, that execution percentage will go way up.
Look what this Giants team did. I tweeted out in the first half. I'm looking at the Giants with Tommy DeVito in there. I'm going, this team may not score a touchdown. in this game. And in fact, the touchdowns came. The first one they got was a 14-yard drive because of the fumble kickoff. The second one they got was the pick six that went for about 70 yards. And the third one was a bomb that you never would expect them to complete. So that's when I say they should have housed this team. That's what I'm talking about. This Giants team is not a good team. And again, when you get well by playing a team like this and you cure all your ills, but they didn't cure any ills today. They won the game, yeah, and they made a couple clutch plays. The quarterback made a couple clutch plays, and they survived it, but they didn't cure any ills, and that's where we are right now. So if people want to believe, listen, I'm not going to dash your beliefs. Whether your belief is in the ballpark is the big question. I don't think your belief that they're going to do something special in the playoffs is there right now.
I'm going to tell you this right now. This is the only thing, the fan in me, this is the only thing I'm holding on to. We saw this city win with a backup quarterback, and in that season, and I don't mean to activate, Mike, don't worry, I don't mean to activate the Folesian Society here.
Oh, you just activated him.
No, I don't mean it. No. But if you remember, it wasn't just the fact that Carson Wentz went down that year and Foles came. It wasn't like Foles came in and made himself an MVP candidate with like 5 weeks left in the season, or whatever it was. He played, I think, 2 or 3 really good games and then was god-awful. And people were talking about Nate Sudfeld starting playoff games. That was an actual conversation had. So the fact they overcame that and won a Super Bowl, I could hope for just about anything.
One has to connect to the other in the elements of this game, and they just did not connect. I mean, like you look at it, you go, well, what connected for them? Nothing really connected for them. They had a lead and they survived it, but the other team, Jalen Hurts going out of bounds on that play at the end of the first half is a quarterback who's not thinking. It's as simple as that. Your quarterback's got to be on top of the thought process at all times. He obviously was not thinking there. When your quarterback doesn't take the time to think that through, you're in trouble. Now, he wasn't the cause of anything bad today, but that's just a ridiculous decision that they wound up getting away with because the other team is so bad.
I'm beginning, and you guys know we've been doing this show together for 2 years now. You guys know that I'm a big advocate for Jalen Hurts. I really believe that he can be a special quarterback. But I'm beginning to worry about him a little bit. Some things that I'm watching him do now really worried me. Like not having the awareness to run out of bounds, not understanding, you don't have any more timeouts, that you got to get out of bounds. I know that, you think, because you're a scrambling quarterback that you can make a play and get into the end zone. But you got to be aware of what the circumstances and what the situations are, He's starting to stare down his receivers now. He's not looking guys off and then coming back. He's looking at guys the entire way. And then he gets into these times in the game, where he feels like he has to placate A.J. Brown and get him balls and get him going. And teams are playing it, man. I mean, they're playing it. That pick six, even though Dallas Goedert slipped, come on, man. Those are mistakes that you can't make because the DB actually ran the route for the receiver because you looked at him the entire way. That's one of the things I do when I'm looking at the replays and when I go back and I look at a game over, one of the things that I'm trying to evaluate is what is the quarterback doing with his eyes, because it's one of the most important tools that he has at his advantage to be able to manipulate the defense. Now, teams understand that, they're going to start blitzing Jalen a lot more than they have in the past, okay? Because they want him to vacate the pocket and they want him to be on the run. And there were times today where he had an opportunity to just step up into the pocket and throw the ball, but he decided to vacate the pocket. And once you get to running sideways and you get a guy that's coming up on you with equal speed, now all of a sudden you're in a situation where you got to throw the football away. You don't even have a play. You don't even have time. You're not buying time to get guys to adjust their routes and come back to you. You're scrambling and running for your life, and then you wind up having to throw the ball away. So it's all of these little small things, that are like football 101 for me that I'm watching. He's seeing the blitz. He's seeing the rush. He's staring down his receivers. He's locking in on certain guys in certain situations. And it's a dead giveaway that in the most crucial of times, who is the guy he's going to go to 95% of the time? He's going to go to A.J. Brown. And teams understand that, and they know that. A.J. is a great wide receiver, but no one's afraid of A.J. running past them. Nobody's afraid of A.J.'s speed where he's just going to get away from you, okay? So in blitz situations, or in situations where you're trying to get the first down, these DBs are sitting on the routes because they understand that Jalen's going to come to his favorite target all the time. And you've got to break that by beginning to go to Dallas Goedert in certain situations or Devontae Smith in certain situations. You got to do that. But if you're going to stand in that pocket and telegraph where you're throwing the ball, you're having a hard time playing quarterback. Now,
yeah, listen, the numbers, if you look at the numbers, they weren't that bad.
He had 300 yards passing a day.
He had 301, and they, as a team, 465 total yards. And DeAndre Swift had 92 on the ground, and A.J. Brown caught 6 balls, and Goddard caught 7 balls. So when you look at those numbers, you go, oh, they must have played all right. But there's just something missing. That's all. And we're going to take a break. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Bill Colarulo will join us, and can't wait for Farzi because he's going to have the player you can bank on in the next segment. We have John McMullen coming our way. We have Kayla Santiago with the Diamond Debate. All that ahead on the Pond Lehocky Eagles postgame show. We're doing it remotely today. As you can see, Mark and I are in Ocean. If you look behind us, Seth's in the trophy room. So we're all good on Christmas, on a Christmas day. Happy Christmas, everybody. We're back after this.